Today, we are diving into what might be the single most important rule in any complex system. It's a concept called A.X.I.S, or the first operation. And believe me, it's a game changer.
So let's just jump right into the deep end with a really critical question. What happens when you tell an AI to just obey, even when that order is straight up poison? And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi problem. This is what's known as a control plane failure. And we're about to break down exactly how one system was built to stop it from ever happening.
Okay, so our whole story kicks off with a single, really dangerous file.
This artifact they called ccwtf.md, it was basically a ticking time bomb. I mean, look at this profile. It's the perfect storm. It was written in this weirdly personal, informal way, but it also contained old, stale plans. It sounded super authoritative, but it was mixed with stuff an AI had just generated. And to top it all off, it was just sitting there, randomly, at the very root of the system. This thing was designed to cause confusion.
And that confusion, it leads to something way, way worse than just a simple mistake. It's called a control plane failure. This is when a file like that one quietly gets treated like it's in charge when it has absolutely no right to be. And then the system doesn't just get a fact wrong, its whole understanding of reality gets twisted. It starts making choices based on a world that isn't even real.
So the system comes across this file, and it finds itself at a fork in the road. It has a choice to make, and there are two totally different paths it can take.
And this right here shows you everything. On the left, that's the default path. That's the road to failure. You just read the file, and then you obey it. Simple and disastrous. That leads directly to the control plane failure we were just talking about. But on the right, you've got the framework path, the path to stability. And notice the difference? The order of operations is flipped on its head. First, you classify the artifact. Then you check it. And only after all of that do you decide if it has any authority. It's moving from blind reaction to smart analysis.
And I really want to land this point. That change in order, it's not a small detail. It's not a minor tweak. It is the absolute core of what makes a system resilient and trustworthy.
So, how did the system actually manage to take that safer path? Well, it wasn't an accident. It was all by design. It uses a layered defense, a whole stack of protocols designed for exactly this kind of threat. Let's just walk through how the system actually thought this through. First, it refused to just assume the file was important. It didn't care that it sounded confident or where it was located. Then, it classified it, basically saying, okay, this is a weird mix of user comments, old plans, and AI text. Then came the time check, super important. It realized the info inside was totally out of date. And that changed the whole question from what do I do to what would happen if I treated this as true. And the result? A calm, controlled diagnosis, not a panic-fueled blind reaction.
The first layer of this defense system is a protocol called drift. You can think of it like the system's gut feeling, or its contamination detector. It's constantly asking, does this feel right? Is the tone weird? Is this thing trying to sound more important than it is? Does it match what I already know about reality? The cool thing is, it doesn't try to fix the weirdness, it just flags it and says, hey, something's off here.
Right behind that, you've got alignment. This is the truth checker. Its job is simple but absolutely critical. It just asks, is this true right now? And it will always trust the current verified truth from the official source over some story that just sounds good. This is the part that prevented those old rotten plans from poisoning the systems here and now.
But here's the thing. All these layers, DRIFT, alignment, that whole decision-making process, they're like the walls and roof of a house. They're great, but they can't just float in midair. They need a foundation to stand on. And that foundation, that is the first operation, A.X.I.S.
So think about it for a second. What's the one thing that has to happen before any of these tools can even do their job? Before you can classify something or check if it's true or really do anything smart at all?
The answer is A.X.I.S.
A.X.I.S stands for Acquired Context in Sequence. Now, it's called the Level 0 governance primitive. That's a fancy way of saying it is the most basic, most fundamental rule of all. Its only job is to control how information comes in and, this is the most important part, in what order it gets processed.
So don't think of A.X.I.S as just another tool in the toolbox. It's the substrate. It's the literal ground everything else is built on. It runs before the system even tries to understand what something means. Before it checks for truth, it runs before absolutely everything else. It is step one.
And this is its unbreakable law. No protocol may activate without A.X.I.S completing its sequence. It's that simple. If the context isn't brought in and put in the right order first, everything else just stops. Full stop.
So, this brings us to the big takeaway. Why does something as simple as putting things in order matter so much? Why is sequencing everything? Because context without order is just meaningless noise. Sequence is what gives our world coherence. Think about it. Without the right order, you can't tell the difference between a cause and an effect, or a plan for the future and a memory of the past. You can't tell a real command from a piece of junk data.
This quote from the source material just says it all perfectly. The framework did not stop the artifact from existing. It stopped the artifact from becoming truth. It didn't have to delete the poison. It just had to recognize it as poison so it never had to drink it.
And that's what A.X.I.S does. It makes that crucial distinction possible. It guarantees that before anything gets judged or analyzed or acted on, it first gets put in its proper place. It creates the stability that lets everything else work.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you're looking at any complex system, an AI, a company, even how you think, ask yourself this one powerful question. What is its first operation?